as a one-man company, I know for a fact that if the regulations that exist today existed 10 years ago, I never could have got this company started. It would have been impossible. I couldn't have afforded it. So that, look at all the jobs I've created in the meantime. Look at all that, the clients that are doing business with me now, that are doing better than if they would have been with some of these larger firms. None of that is even possible today. No young person can do what I did because of government regulation. So we've got to deregulate this economy and unleash the free market. And we've got to remove all the roadblocks that the government has put in our path that have made us so unproductive. The reason that so many manufacturing jobs are gone, so many factories have shut down, is because the government rendered those operations uncompetitive with all the useless and unnecessary regulations and taxes that they loaded up on these companies. So we have to get government out of industry through deregulation, especially look what we did with healthcare. I mean, healthcare is expensive for a reason. Right? College tuitions are high for a reason. It's because of government. If you understand how capitalism works, capitalism drives costs down. That's one of the beauties of it. Prices go down in a free market and quality goes up. So if you have a situation where that's not happening, you've got to examine it and look at why. Why is capitalism not working in healthcare? Why is it not working in education? And you can see why, because of government's involvement. Government gets in there and interferes. And they work to artificially drive prices up. So if we can get government out of these areas, then we can have, meaningful healthcare reform. But it has to be in the form of removing all the impediments to the free market that the government has put in there that created this situation. But yes, follow up?
Yeah, I had a second question.
All right.
I understand the economy and those issues are important to us, but it's not the only issue that Americans face today, especially if you're getting on a plane and flying anywhere. The Hartford Current, God bless them, ran a poll today asking people to respond to Lieberman's comments about Yemen and it being the next site of Al-Qaeda and whatnot. And I was very surprised to find out that more people thought that we should intervene there before Al-Qaeda got a foothold than people said, don't even bother because you can't solve the issue of terrorism by invading another country. What's your position on our role in Afghanistan and potentially another situation like this in Yemen?
Well, sure. First of all, from an economic perspective, we can't afford everything that we're doing. I mean, we're going broke, and we're borrowing all the money from China. We're borrowing from Japan, and if we're bankrupt, then we can't defend ourselves. Period. So we have to get our financial house in order. That's the best foreign policy we can have because, like I said, look at the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had a huge military, but they collapsed because of the economy, because of the finances. And we're going to have the same fate if we don't get our house in order. But as far as what I think our role should be, I think that foreign policy is the most important issue for the federal government. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to be spending our tax dollars on, national defense. Just about everything else the government does is unconstitutional. But that is the main role of the federal government, is to protect us. But I don't necessarily think they make us safer by invading and occupying other countries. Now, I was against going into Iraq when we did. I was very vocal about it. I wrote about it. I said it was going to be another Vietnam, and unfortunately I was right. I mean, it's not Vietnam from the sense that we've had as many American casualties, but we've been there for a long time, and I don't think we're accomplishing anything. I was initially in favor of going into Afghanistan because I thought it made sense. After all, we wanted to get Osama bin Laden, who actually attacked us. But here it is, 8 years later, he's not even there anymore, and we're sending 30,000 more troops there. I don't know what we're doing there. I don't want to invade all these countries because maybe there might be terrorists there in the future. If there's a credible, actual threat that we need to act on and act on it strategically, then I might be in favor of it. And I would be more in favor of using our military dollars to create defensive weapon systems to protect us, to have better security at our borders and our ports, to really protect us here at home, rather than trying to have such a huge presence overseas that is very expensive. And in many cases, we stir up a lot of hornet's nests when we do that. And I think if we stay away and don't involve ourselves so much in other nations' affairs, people won't be as likely to want to commit acts of terrorism against us in the first place. And if we spend our resources more defensively, we'll have a better act of stopping the terrorist events that actually do occur. You did a question?
It was the same question. You want
Yeah.
You mentioned regulations. What was your reaction to Sarbanes-Oxley? Did that impact your business?
Well, it impacted it a little bit. I mean, it did. I think that's another area. I wasn't doing a lot of investment banking. I'm doing some of that now. But and I think that Sarbanes-Oxley certainly hurt our markets. I think as a result of it, fewer companies decided to list on U.S. exchanges. I mean, that might actually help me because I'm not restricted to trading in the U.S. I trade all around the world for my clients. But I think it certainly, helped hurt the U.S. financial position as a place where you'd want your companies listed, because a lot of foreign companies didn't want to have to comply with it. But the regulations I think that hurt me the most was the Patriot Act. And there's a provision in the Patriot Act called anti-money laundering, and that is probably the most onerous. I mean, there were some other ones that came in after September 11th, but that Patriot Act is a terrible bill. And apart from how much it costs me to comply with it, and what I have to do because of that Money Laundering Act, and of course they say it's about terrorists, but it's got nothing to do with terrorists. I mean, there's terrorists don't have brokerage accounts here. I mean, maybe there's a couple, and if they do, they're losing money. So we should be glad they've invested with U.S. firms. Maybe they had some money with Bernie Madoff, or maybe they had some money in subprime mortgages or something like that. But most of them probably have their money in gold, unfortunately, and so they're doing well. But this act was passed under the guise of patriotism, but it was really a very unpatriotic act, and it's something that Congress wanted to do, but they couldn't do it under normal circumstances. But because of the environment and the mood of the country in the aftermath of September 11th, they were able to slip this thing in, right? And they voted on it. And what it did is it destroyed any financial privacy that Americans had, and it turned people like me into unpaid FBI agents and IRS agents. So what I have to do, and this takes a lot of resources, when somebody comes to me and opens up an account, we have to thoroughly look through their background, right? And we have to monitor their transactions. Every time they buy and sell something, every time money comes in and out of the account, we have to look at all the transactions. And we have to have computer programs, and we have to have individuals looking over everything to try to see if anything that we're doing, that you guys are doing as a client, looks suspicious. That maybe you're laundering money, which means maybe you're trying not to pay your income taxes. And if we find anything that looks suspicious, we're required to basically tell the government about it. Now, we can't tip you off. We have to just keep it quiet because we've got to try to catch you. And the thing is, maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe the client isn't doing anything wrong. But I have to just report them, even if it looks like they might be. And if I don't do it, I can be fined. My company can be shut down. I can go to jail for not finding out in advance that maybe. And all of this is very expensive to actually track and monitor all the paperwork, all the stuff that's done. It's very cumbersome. And but apart from burdening me with all this expense, the fact that now in America there's no financial privacy, that when you're talking to your banker or your broker, that they are there to spy on you, and if they think you're doing something wrong, they have to tell the government to go investigate you. I mean, that's America. This is the country that we live in. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah.
Two different questions. On foreign policy, the president says that a nuclear armed Iran is unacceptable. Iran said that's too bad. And Israel is giving signals that if they feel that Iran will obtain a nuke, they'll attack. What can or do we do about that situation?
Yeah, I've thought about that, and I do think that, allowing Iran to develop nuclear weapons is something that if we can prevent it, I think we should. The question is, how do we go about it? Does that mean that we invade Iran? I don't think so. But obviously, if we have intelligence and we can figure out where they are, developing these weapons, I mean, there's no reason to have them. What are they doing developing them? And I think that we could do something, or Israel or the United States could do something if we have credible intelligence to neutralize that threat, but do it in a way that doesn't involve, an occupation of a country or a land, or just a strategic way to try to stop them from developing those weapons. I think it makes sense to do that. Certainly, if we could have stopped the Soviet Union from developing nuclear weapons, in the 1940s,